Hey, welcome. So every time there's an election, we put our faith in the system. But what's really holding all that faith up? Today, we are going to get into the nitty-gritty, the actual rules that are designed to protect the very heart of democracy, our right to vote.
I mean, that is the big question, isn't it? And the answer isn't just, trust. It's a whole framework of laws built specifically to make sure every single election is free, fair, and secure. And in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how they do that.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the absolute core, right, that this is all about. Then we'll get into the major threats. We're talking everything from corrupt influence to straight-up deception. We'll follow the money, lay out the consequences, and then at the end, figure out where you fit into all of this. To really get what's illegal, we first have to be crystal clear on what's being protected. So let's start with the most fundamental right that all these laws are built to defend.
You know, what's so fascinating is that our electoral right is actually way broader than you might think. It's not just your right to cast a vote. It's also your right not to vote, to run for office, or to decide, hey, this isn't for me. The law protects your complete freedom to choose how you participate, or even if you participate at all.
Okay, so now that we've got that right established, let's look at the first major threat. All the ways people try to corrupt your free choice, either with a reward. We all think we know what bribery is, right? But the law is super specific here. It's about offering any kind of gratification to get someone to vote a certain way. And this is the really crucial part. It's a two-way street. The law says both the person giving the bribe and the person taking it are held accountable.
But this is where it gets a little tricky. The law draws a really clear line between a private bribe and a public promise. Offering you personally some cash for your vote, that's illegal. A candidate promising to build a new school for the whole community, well, that's just campaigning. It's a huge distinction between personal gain and public policy. So if bribery is trying to corrupt you with a reward, then undue influence is corruption by fear. This is all about direct interference, using threats, using intimidation, anything to basically crush a voter's free will.
And just look at how far this protection goes. It's not just talking about threats of physical violence. The law explicitly calls out using spiritual intimidation, like threatening someone with punishment from God or telling them they'll be kicked out of their spiritual community to control their vote. That's a huge deal.
All right, next up, we're moving from influence to just plain old deception. These are the crimes that try to cheat the system using fraud and lies, and they mess with the integrity of voters and candidates.
Honestly, this is the simplest way to think about it. The crime of personation is basically when someone commits identity theft, but they do it at the polling booth. They steal someone else's right to vote by stealing their identity, even if it's just for a minute. So how does it work? Well, it's pretty straightforward. Someone walks in, applies for a ballot paper using a fake name, could be a real person, someone who has passed away, or even a name they just made up. And then they cast a vote. What's also interesting is that the law says voting more than once, even under your own name, is also considered personation. Deception can also be aimed squarely at the candidates. Now, to be clear, this isn't about criticizing someone's policies. This is about knowingly spreading false statements of fact, outright lies, about a candidate's personal life or character just to try and sink their campaign. That's where the law draws a line between political debate and illegal slander. Okay, so beyond individual votes, a fair election really depends on transparency. And that brings us to the rules that govern one of the most powerful forces in any campaign: money. The big idea here is accountability. Think about it. You can't just decide to start spending your own money on ads or rallies to support a candidate. Any spending that's meant to promote them has to have their written permission. This one simple rule makes sure that candidates are directly on the hook for every single dollar spent in their name. And this rule has some real teeth. Spending money without getting that official sign-off isn't just a slap on the wrist. It can lead to a pretty significant fine of up to 10,000 rupees. It's a clear message that unauthorized dark money has no place in the system.
And it's not just about authorizing the spending, it's also about tracking it. The law also says that candidates have to keep super detailed records of all their campaign expenses. This is pretty much the foundation of financial transparency. And you guessed it, there's a penalty for not following through. If a candidate fails to keep those proper accounts, they can face a fine of up to 5,000 rupees. It just reinforces the idea that in a fair election, every transaction has to be on the books. Okay, so we've covered all of these different offenses. Let's pull it all together now and look at the actual punishments to really understand what's at stake.
Let's just run through this breakdown. You'll probably notice a pattern here, right? The offenses that directly mess with a person's free choice, like bribery, undue influence, and identity theft, they carry the heaviest penalties, up to a year in prison. The financial and speech violations, while still very serious, usually end in fines. Every rule has a consequence that's designed to fit the crime.
So, what does all this actually mean for you? Because these aren't just some abstract legal ideas in a book. These rules are the very framework that protects a right that belongs to every single one of us.
At the end of the day, understanding what protects your vote from being bought, bullied, or faked, well, that's the first step to actually defending it. Knowing these rules doesn't just make you an informed citizen, it makes you a guardian of the entire democratic process.